Compositing in Blender is kind of a post-process effect where we can do something after we render an image. So if we click on the compositing in the Blender, we can see that we kind of don't have anything if we just click it by default. But if we click use nodes, we get these two nodes, which is basically our output, and then our render layers are basically our renders that we can then use to modify before the final result. So let's get to our normal scene, and I'm going to take the light and bring it closer to the box, and let's click render, and this is basically what we get. I'm gonna click X from this window, and now let's go to compositing, and in here I'm just gonna click on view layer so we can refresh it and we can see our box. Now we can put anything in between here and it will be modifying our image. So let's click Shift A. Of course you can go add in here, but I like to use shortcuts, so I'm gonna click Shift A, and let's add brightness contrast node. So if we connect this, nothing kind of happened for us, and that is because we are not currently previewing whatever changes we are making. So let's click Shift A, and let's click on output and find viewer. And if we connect it in here, we can see that in the background now we can see our modified image. Now if I increase the contrast, we can see that the image is actually changing. This is nice, but it kind of seems zoom in, and the thing that you can do here is go to view and then zoom out this image a bit until you're satisfied, so something like this, so we can nicely see everything that we're doing in the background. So you can see that compositing kind of works similarly to shader editor. You have your inputs, your outputs, and then some values that are changing if the node has the values to change. And for the render layers, we have image and alpha, so that would be RGB and then A channel. And for composite, we also have similar things. We also have Z for depth, but that is some other thing. So let's see what nodes we have in here. So some of the most important nodes that you're going to bring is you have your input nodes. So if I need a specific color, I can do this. So if I want, I could, let's see, mix. So if I want to mix, or maybe we can do add instead. It's in here. Let's connect it here. So we can see on all the black values, we basically added blue, and we have the factor how much blue we want to add. So you could have just an input node with maybe a specific color or a specific thing that you want to add. Maybe you want a mask, something like that. You can basically get it in here and then connect it and do something with it. Another thing that you could do in here is color. So this is the most what you will use this for. So maybe we want, let's say, gamma. It will work similarly like the brightness contrast works. And just keep in mind that for preview, we may need to connect it in here. And then if we want it for the final image, we also need to connect it to composite. So we have gamma, which we can change. And these are basically similar. They just change some values like color, brightness, stuff like that. Then we have converters. This is something like color ramp. So if I we don't have actually alpha in here, so let's actually add alpha before we do anything. And by the way, when you connect this and you see this in the background, now every time that you render, so let's actually stay in compositing. Now every time that you render, you're gonna get that post-processing effect on top of it. So we can see that we now don't have the default render, we have the default render with our composition on top. So that's basically what you're getting. And let's go to our render settings, and then let's go to film and click on transparent. And now when we render, we're going to get transparent background. And that means that this alpha is now not empty. So if I connect it in here, we can see that we have black values and white values that basically represent the alpha values. So for that, we could use something like this. Let's do image. And let's try to move these values. Actually, we won't see much because we are basically just changing the edges. but you can maybe see kind of how edges are changing because we are creating less and less contrast between them. But we can also use color ramp, something like this. And we can see how the contrast is changing because we are going back and forth. So those are converters. We also have some filters. And in here, some of the most useful ones would be something like glare. So let's connect our image here and then image to our viewer so we can see what's happening. And we can immediately see basically what is happening. We get like this kind of a blurry or glow effect that does not look that good right now, but we can change the type of glow, which is maybe ghost. This is more normal one, but it kind of is blown out. For that, we can change the threshold. So the more I increase, the more bright parts, it will start to remove all of the darker parts, and then just really glowing, really bright parts will have this glow. So we can also change the mix, so we can actually see which parts are the most glowing, so these two. And if I decrease the threshold, we can see the more and more things are glowing on this box. And let's putting the mix, you usually want the mix to be on 0. And then you have iterations for kind of smoother experience, but then you have to play around with some other settings. You also have something like simple start. This is like a small effect, but if you decrease this, you can see how it looks. Not too bad, but you might have to increase iterations to actually get something nice there. Okay, after this, let's see. We have some vectors, that's not important right now. We have matte, which is basically we can kind of select or different parts based on maybe color, brightness value, something like that. I can maybe show you this with box mask. So let's add box mask, then mix this with, let's say, alpha. Or actually we're gonna use alpha in the box mask and then connect this to the factor. And then let's do something like this. So we are gonna combine our image with color, with this color. And then we can use box to basically select which parts are colored. And I think we need add for this. Maybe not add, maybe... Actually, I'm gonna do something like... let me see. I think the best way to do this, maybe not use this. And I'm going to reset values because I changed them a bit too much. And now let's try to move them. We should be able to see the box at some point, so maybe we can use add. This box mask basically just creates a huge box around our thing. So let's see. Okay, here it is. I move things around so it is not that visible. But basically we are using this box that is masked, and we can basically change the scale, rotate it, stuff like that, and we are basically creating mask out of that. Right now this mask is not doing much, but we can combine it to kind of select part of the screen to change the color or something like that. So that is matte, and you can also use channel key, chroma key. You can use different parts which all have pretty explanatory inputs, so you can just input it like this. Let's put it in here, and maybe we can delete this. And then we have the color that we want to choose. Right now we have black and white box, which is kind of hard to work with, but basically you can select a specific color in your image and then use that as a mask, and then maybe you can use it as a factor or something and cut it off. I don't think we can do it with the black and white box, but that would be kind of the idea. And of course, don't forget at the end you want to connect it to Composite, because that is your final image. That is what happens when you click render, and then this newest image will be whatever is connected to Composite. So if I don't have anything here, our image will be black. So that's always to keep in mind, to check if your image is black or not, how you want it to look like. You probably just used it on the viewer and then did not connect it to the Composite later.